Hey everyone, my name is Nick Lowery. I'm the director of Kannaway Sports. I've got another Hall of Famer with me, Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare. And I have to say, one of the highlights of my life has been to have amazing teammates like him and to get to meet people that are champions, not only on the field with what they did in the National Football League and other sports, but probably even more importantly, how those values and their experiences and lessons, defeats even, tragedies even, but also victories, how they shape them to keep going, to keep enduring, to overcome. And Christian Okoye has an incredible story, and we're going to talk with him about that, because I think one of my goals for this show, which is called Kannaway Champions, is that champions are not champions because they didn't have adversity. They're champions because through courage, through wisdom, through character, they overcame. So first of all, Christian, I'm honored to have you on, honored to have you as a friend, brother. Thanks for being on this show.
Well, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So, I've heard quite a bit of the story in Nigeria, but you grew up in Nigeria. You were part of the Igbo tribe, and you were an outstanding athlete. You also played soccer, and you were a world-class hammer thrower. Tell us a little bit about your family, a little bit about what it was like living and growing up in Nigeria, and how you came through that experience to come to the United States.
Wow. I tell you, growing up in Nigeria, it was difficult. It was poor. I grew up in a poor family, and it was extremely difficult. When I was young, about 6 years old, Nigeria went through a civil war, which even made things more difficult. I remember all that as a young child. Being that age, I remember during the war, seeing dead bodies on the road while playing with my friends. So I grew up with that. And when the war was over, we moved back to our city, Enugu, where I actually was born. And I grew up there. I went to elementary school and high school there. Looking back right now, and looking back on my upbringing, it taught me a lot, and I'm glad that I grew up the way I did, because the friends that I had then, my dad was a rock, my mom was a rock. Mm-hmm. I have a great family. My mom and dad are no longer living. I have 3 brothers and 3 sisters. Even though one of my brothers passed away, my oldest brother, but they were very supportive. We support each other in everything that we do. When I started playing sports, none of them played sports anyway.
Oh, really?
But yeah, I was the only one.
Interesting.
When I started playing, it wasn't a welcome news to my dad, because my dad always said that he didn't get an education, so all his kids must have education. We must go to college, we must graduate from high school and then go on to college.
Christian, just to interrupt, tell us a little bit about your dad and what he did for a living, and how he came to that clarity about education.
Well, my dad, he just went to elementary school. I didn't go to high school.
Right.
But he was extremely smart, very, very smart. If you hear my dad speak, and if you have a conversation with my dad, you will think he had a PhD.
Right.
As a matter of fact, when I was inducted into the Chiefs Hall of Fame, he came to Kansas City, and he and Lamar Hunt kind of hit it off. They spent like 2-3 days just telling stories and listening to each other, and they enjoyed each other very, very much. Yes. But my dad, when he left school, he actually started teaching right away. The British people were in Nigeria, and so they made him a teacher because of how smart he was. So he started teaching and also coaching soccer. Yeah, coach soccer. He didn't want me playing sports because he said he had a lot of injury when he was playing. So he didn't want me injured a lot at all. He wants me to get my education and move on. But he sustained a lot of injury. And so they made him a coach. He coached soccer part-time and taught in school. But from there, he entered into the Nigerian army. He fought in the Second World War as a young boy. And when he came back, he applied for the Ministry of Social Welfare, and he worked in the Social Welfare Division for a long time before the war started. And after the war, he went back and worked a little bit, and it was disbanded. And he worked for a friend of his who owned a department store, so he was a sales manager at the department store for a long time, till I left Nigeria to come here. So he went through a lot, and through his experiences, he told his kids, us, that education is the way, and we must pay attention to our education and make sure that we get good grades in school. But having friends that played sports, I wanted to play sports. I loved soccer. And he didn't want me playing soccer at all.
Really?
The main reason why he didn't want me playing soccer was because I didn't have any time period in my head. So after school, I would stay back at school and play soccer till like 7, 8 at night. And I would have chores at home to do. I didn't do them. So when he gets home and I wasn't home, he will come to my school and found me playing soccer. And he'd grab me by the ear, take me home. But this happened every day. And one day, one of our neighbors told my dad, he says, well, maybe you should encourage him, because you don't know. Maybe sports will be a way of his life. He can grow up playing sports and feed you or something.
Christian, by the way, I'm guessing now, how old were you probably at that point? 12 years old, something like that?
I was in high school.
Okay.
I was in high school.
So you're already in high school, and you were built pretty ridiculously strong and fast, right?
Yeah, I was very athletic. I wasn't as big as I was when I came to college here, but I was still playing soccer. So if I played soccer, I was still kind of little, you see. So, but in my sophomore, junior in high school, I transferred from playing soccer into track and field, because I saw how much pain my dad was every time he would find out that I'm not home, every time he would get home and I wasn't home. So I felt like I was disappointing him so much, and I decided I'm going to switch sports. I'm going to get into track and field. So I started running the hurdles and so on. And still, my dad was upset at me that I was still playing sports. And I'll tell you one remarkable thing that happened, which kind of leads into people that I look up to. My track coach at the time, Patrick Anowa, he came to my house and he told my dad that he will come to my house, pick me up, take me to track practice, and after practice, he will bring me back. And I'm talking about, 15, 20 miles each way. And he did that. He picked me up. After practice, he would bring me back. And my dad says, that's fine. So he did that. And that gesture right there is the reason why I played sports. Because if it wasn't for that, I would have been, something else, maybe teaching or something like that.
So Christian, let's hold up. Let's hold up his name. Coach Anop. What's his name?
Coach Patrick Anowa.
Anowa.
Anukwa.
So Patrick Anowa. All of us have. Mine was Dick Johnson and Gary Gardner in particular. Yours was Coach Anowa.
Yes.
Hold those people up, because they help us at critical times stay with it and maybe make better choices right when we're capable of not making good choices.
That's right. That's right. And I have several people on the way, and he was the first one. My dad, of course, was the first one that was a rock for me, because he guided me. He made sure that I didn't steer into bad friendship with, crazy kids and so on. So he was there for me. Then Coach Anopa came on, and he directed me to, what I needed to do using my talent in sports. So he played that part. When I developed into a kind of a national athlete, Coach Anopa was the one who took Nigerian athletes, throwers, and track and field athletes into Egypt and some of the international meets that we competed in. So he stayed with me for a long time. Then when I left Nigeria, and that story, it's a long story, but I'll make it short. I have a friend by the name of Innocent Egbunike I became friends with him a year before I left in 1980. Innocent went to the Junior Olympics in 1980, in Moscow. And we became friends because, of course, we were in the same team running track and field. And all of a sudden, Innocent gets an admission to come to Azusa Pacific in California. And I told him, I said, hey, why don't you talk to the coach over there? If I can come, I would love to. And of course, he did just that. My dad didn't have any money, couldn't pay for my school fees. So I had to have a scholarship, full scholarship. Azusa didn't give full scholarship, just gave half scholarship, a tuition scholarship. So if I came, I would have to work to pay for my room and board. And that's what was promised to me. And my dad couldn't afford the plane ticket. So he had to go borrow money when they sent me an I-20 to come and get my visa. My dad had to borrow money, and I came with no money, with nothing in the summer of 1982. But I was happy to be here because, I was eager. I was eager to make something of myself. I knew that Olympics was coming up in 2 years, in 1984. I was so excited to be near the Olympics so I can train and qualify for the Olympics. So when I came, Innocent was my best friend. We did everything together. He was a sprinter. Every time he would run, I run with him, after lifting weights, after working out myself. So that's how my running came up, from training with sprinters, you see. So, yes. And so when I came, didn't have any money. I hung out with Innocent, stayed with Innocent before the school started because, of course, I didn't have anywhere to stay. Trained with him, the school started, and I had to work. Every day I had to work 2-3 hours to make a little bit of money so I can afford the food. But those are the things that I knew I had to do. It wasn't very difficult. I had that in mind that it was set out that's what I'm going to do. But training 2 years, getting ready for the Olympics. When the Olympics came around, Nigeria didn't take me. I had all the marks. I traveled all over Europe in 1984 in the springtime, competing all over in Germany, Sweden, everywhere. I was doing extremely well, actually hoping to medal, but Nigeria didn't take me. So I was heavily disappointed.
And it was the hammer throw, right?
It was the discus throw was my main event.
Okay.
I could have competed in the discus and maybe medaled in the discus.
And you were right around 210 feet or something, right?
My best official mark was 212, and I was still developing, right? Yeah. Actually, I think it was 214 that won the gold medal. So I could have done very, very well. Mm-hmm. But I was disappointed when Nigeria didn't take me. I decided that I'm going to play another sport. And the soccer that I love, I couldn't play anymore because I was weighing 270-something pounds at the time. Yeah, I was very big and strong, as a matter of fact. And then I decided, because my friend had been asking me to play football. And I keep saying no because I didn't know anything about the game. We don't have football in Nigeria. We still don't. I decided I'm going to go in and inquire. I walked into the football coach's office. His name is Jim Milhon. Coach, I said, Coach, I like to play football. And he said, do you know anything about the game? I said, no. He said, okay. What position are you interested in? I said, I don't know any position. He said, huh. And then I said to him, I remember watching the news the other night, and they showed highlights of a game between the Raiders and the Washington Redskins. It was the Super Bowl highlight. And I saw this one guy who reversed the field and ran a long ways and scored a touchdown. He says, oh yeah, that was Marcus Allen during the Super Bowl. I said, yes, that's the position that I want to play. No, I first asked him, I said, what position was that? He said, running back position. I said, that's the position that I want to play. So he said, okay, just come out tomorrow in your shorts and tennis shoes and so on. So I did. And I went out, and it was crazy. It was wild to play a sport that I had never seen before. I had never watched a full football game before in my whole entire life. When I first came to America, Innocent took me to a football game. He says, let's go to a football game. I'm thinking,
Soccer.
Okay, we're going to go watch a soccer game, right? But when we got there, these guys came out with shoulder pads. And I said to Innocent, what is this? He said, this is American football. I said, oh. I said, these guys are huge. He said, no, they're wearing shoulder pads. I didn't know they were wearing shoulder pads. I said, well, what is this going to be like? He said, just sit and watch. And the game started. And I saw, two groups. They kicked off and somebody, caught the ball, and then the whistle blows. And then offense and defense came on. I didn't know it was offense and defense, but they got together, each got together, and it seemed like they were whispering something to each other, and then they line up, and then the ball snapped, and then the referee blows the whistle again. I told Innocent, I said, man, there's so many whistles in this game. He said, yeah. I said, this is boring. Let's get out of here. And we left. So I had never watched a football game for 2 years until 1984 when I started playing.
So now you're what, 20 years old, and are you a junior or a sophomore?
I was junior now when I
Wow.
started playing.
So you
Yes, I
played
was
no
junior.
football till your junior year in college.
Yes, I had never played. And I had never really watched the game before I started playing. So that was a really difficult time for me because I'm playing a game that I had never watched, didn't know anything about, didn't grow up with. But I'm just going on an account of my friends telling me this is fun, this is great. But I couldn't see any fun about it because every time I come back to my room, I'm all sore with scratches and all that stuff. And I said, I don't get this way of playing soccer, So I made many decisions to quit. Every time I decided to quit, my friend said, no, you got to go back. You're doing so great. You have to go back. And then I'll have a meeting with my college track coach, Terry Franson, who's another mentor of mine. And I will tell him, Coach, I don't want to play anymore. He says, Christian, you're doing so great. Why don't you give it 1 or 2 more weeks? And I'll give it 1 more week. I come back to him and say, Coach, I can't do it. I cannot do it. This is crazy. He says, Christian, they tell me you're doing so well. Why don't you give it? He told me this about 3 times. Give it 1 more week. Give it 1 more week. So I keep going back to him. And then before you know it, the season is over. I was so glad the season is over. I'm not going to play football anymore. And of course, Coach Francis comes to me and says, Christian, Coach Mihon said you were doing so great. So you have to go back for 1 more year. He said, besides, you never know where this is going to lead you to. I decided I went back again for my 2nd year and went through it. I was a little better. Huh?
Well, your senior year, which is, because for those people that don't follow American football, the great players are already scouted, and many of them are already slotted to be drafted by the end of their junior year. And here you're just emerging in your senior year. So there's usually a lot of pressure. I remember I felt a little bit of that pressure my senior year. And I just want to inject a question because it seemed like you had some clarity about working, but how do you feel that this game of football taught you to work through literally the pain and the scratches and the bruises of life and stick with it for a big outcome?
Well, it's just overcoming adversity, getting into something that I didn't know anything about, but I had to learn. It goes into anything that you do in life, in business, sales, everything that you do in life. You have to overcome some things that comes in the way. You know, I always tell kids when I speak to them, I say, you're always going to have hills and valleys in anything that you do. When you go into school, you're going to have to study. You have to study the subjects that are extremely hard for you, but you're working to pass that class. So you have to put yourself in it. And football was one of those for me. And fortunately, I had a bunch of people who were supporting me. Terry Francis, my track coach, Jim Milholm, my football coach, my friend Innocent Egunike was another guy, and a host of my teammates who were teaching me the game. Actually, learning the game was taught to me by my teammates mostly, because every time I'll do something wrong, they'll correct me right away. They didn't wait for the coach. So all those things, it was extremely difficult, but I knew that a bunch of people were counting on me. I had a great athletic ability. I was big, I was strong, and I was fast. And quitting at that time seemed to me like letting a lot of people down and just not being able to use that talent that God blessed me with.
Let me say, one of the things, these are things that wrap in as you make these statements, some basic assumptions too, which is you cared about the opinion of your teammates. You didn't want to let people down. So you had an awareness that you have your role, your position in life, your purpose, but you also saw yourself as part of a tribe, part of a community, part of a team. And it was important to you to not let people down. And I think that we can use that sometimes in a way that is counterproductive because we worry about other people's opinions, but it can be an excellent and beautiful thing if it means, just like the great football teams like this year's Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs, they feel a connection to each other. They feel an obligation. I can't let my teammates down. Me as a kicker, I've got to make every kick. As you know, Marty Schottheimer, he made sure that we always had a tight game at the end, and I had to come through, and I didn't want to let anybody down. And I hear that coming through very clearly from you, as you did feel this sense of connection to others. And I think those are things, when you look at Tom Brady as an example, or Joe Montana, who I played with, and you played with in preseason, and I still think you should have been part of that team. You know, when they're on the sidelines, we had Mike Webster is another example, Derek Thomas, Marcus Allen. Those people help us realize we're not alone. We're not alone. We have to do our job, but we're not alone. And so some players in the right team can be raised up to a higher level. If we surround ourselves with good people, it brings out our best. What do you think about
Well, the thing is that, let me put it this way. The thing is that no one who is successful ever attains that level of success by themselves. No one. People always help people. We have that as a duty in ourselves to help people. And I had so many people who helped me. And I'm so grateful that I had all those people. So all those people that I mentioned, they were there. They were there. Even when I was in Kansas City, all you guys, all my teammates, Jim Saxon, all my teammates, the other running backs, I was still learning the game, and they realized that. So they spoke to me. They corrected me every time I made a mistake, and it's not like making fun of me. And let me go back to your point. Thinking about other people's feelings. Just say you have a kid, and that kid trusts you so much that you tell these kids the things that they need to do and how they can correct some things. And they listen to you, they trust you. That's how I trusted all these people, you see? Because if you don't know anything about a particular subject, and those that know about this particular subject is trying to teach you, you listen. So that's how I was, because I didn't know anything about the game. And these guys have been playing since Pop Warner, you see? So when they say, Christian, you need to run lower, you need to use your pads, you need to carry the ball on your right arm when you run into your right side.
Sorry, I missed that. And
say it again, please? My suit. I had to listen to these people, you see. So, and I trusted every single advice that came from them, you see. So when you go to a small school like I did, I became part of their pride. They want me to succeed so much that when I was at the Senior Bowl, they were all praying for me because they had never.
By the way, yeah, the Senior Bowl is the top college all-star game for football.
Yes. When I was at Senior Bowl, Azusa Pacific had never had an athlete in the Senior Bowl. And I was at the Senior Bowl. And now my first practice, I sprained my ankle. If you get injured, they will put you to the side or send you home. But they didn't. So I asked Coach Schuler, who was my coach at the time. He says, Christian, before you got here, they put up a big article about you in the newspaper, in the local paper here, talking about how much, you lift your sports and your speed and so on and so forth. So people want to see you, and I want to see you. So that kind of put me in a spot right there. So I did my best. I was limping around. If you watched the game, I was limping around, but I scored 4 touchdowns for my side, and we won the game. I was the offensive player of the game. But those things were achieved because of the good people around me and listening and willing to listen, which is extremely important. You have to be willing to listen. But I set a goal to myself at the time that I will never let my school down. I will never let my friends down. And I made a point to myself that every time I go out there, I'm out there. It's not like, no, this is going to be over, then I will give it up. I didn't do that. So I committed myself and I stayed with it.
Well, so now let's move on to that next chapter, which is 4 touchdowns in the Senior Bowl. And the Kansas City Chiefs, the team that I'd been on for 7-8 years, drafts you in the 2nd round. And I remember seeing you for the first time, and you had some jean cutoffs. And I'm looking at those thighs going, holy Toledo. Did you squat 700 pounds?
I squatted 725. Just
a lot of weight.
Walking out.
A lot of weight. And, the thing is, of course, whenever you train, just for our brand ambassadors, people watching, it's finding those things that directly, as much as possible, translate to being more effective. So one, obviously, skill set is to have legs that are so strong. But if you get strong, but you lose flexibility and you lose balance and you hurt yourself. So it's all about finding those things that directly relate to your outcome, directly relate to the game that you're playing in particular. So talk to us about that. Now you're in the National Football League. And I try to tell people, I was a wide receiver in high school. When they hit in college, it took me about 2 hits to go. I'm not going to worry about playing wide receiver. As much harder as they hit in college, which you hadn't even played in high school, now you're going to the National Football League where they know they've got to stop you. And they hit so hard, and it's a much faster game. What was that like for you to know this team was very excited to have you and was expecting a lot from you?
Well, I want to cover your point. When it gets so big, it's extremely difficult to have that flexibility to avoid injuries. My background is track and field. That means if you're in track and field, you know a lot about stretching, warming up, and taking care of your body, you see. And I was that way when I played football. So even though I was lifting heavy weights, I was still sprinting with my sprinter friends. I was still working out with them. I was still stretching with them. I was still trying to take care of my body with those guys. So when I came to the Chiefs, even though I was weighing 265 pounds and I was as strong as I was still taking care of my body. And I have to tell you this, I had never pulled a muscle in my whole entire career. I had never pulled a muscle, never pulled a hamstring, a quad, or anything else.
Wow.
You see? And that's from stretching all the time. And I took care of my body, you see? So I'm going to go also back to coming out of college, and then I set a goal for myself. Because everything that you do in life, you have to set goals. And sometimes when we set goals, we're so we think about the end goal so much that you don't think about the step-by-step process in which you have to go through to get to that goal, right? So I talk about that a lot when I talk to people. When you set a goal, there's a lot of stories I can tell you. I'm gonna tell you about this one guy that I walk out with. When I was playing for the Chiefs, I come back here and I go to a local college over here to the track and I run, I stretch and do all kinds of stuff. And this one guy was working out with me. I won't say his name. And he worked out with me for about 4 months. And one day he says to me, look, he looked at me and said, you know, it is people like you. I think I told you this story before. He said, it's people like you that kept me away from football. And I looked at him. I said, man, so if I didn't make it into the NFL, you would be in my spot, you know? And that goes to show you pointing fingers will never get you anywhere. You have to commit yourself. Yeah. You have to commit yourself to the step-by-step process that you set up for yourself in order to achieve the goal that you set for yourself. You know,
yeah.
No matter what.
Go ahead. Let me make a comment too. You know, I talked a little bit. This is about Christian, but you know, it was so natural for me that when the Chiefs tried to sign me and I got my only bonus ever of $2,500, then they're telling me I'm competing against Jan Stenerud, future Hall of Famer, greatest kicker in NFL history. If I was in a different mindset, I would have used that excuse. I would have said, it's not fair. I'm not going to have a chance to beat him out.
Exactly.
Because I'd stayed with it and the journey had allowed me to put myself into these different places of getting better and making mistakes, but learning and getting better, that I felt it was my time. I knew that I had to be better than him at everything.
Yeah.
Every day, at everything. And that's the higher standard, but it made me capable of beating him out. I'm just going to share this thought too. My friend Tony Robbins, I was lucky enough to get to know him quite well. And about goals, when I made it, I wrote out my goals and I wrote them as specifically as I could, the exact percentage. I'm not going to miss a field goal inside 50. I'm going to make, 90% of my field goals. I'm going to make every game win, all those things. And I lost that piece of paper. It was folded up in my wallet. I also had them written on my mirror in my personal bathroom, so I could see it every day and remind me, because your brain and your soul search for those things if you ask it to, and it attracts and magnetizes to those things. So now I lead the NFL in scoring. This is the first time I did this. And I'm in Hawaii and I got a Hawaiian wallet. And so I took the things out of my old wallet and there was this piece of paper. And I unfolded it because it was folded about 4 times. And in it were all these goals. And every single goal was achieved almost to the 1,000th of a percentile. You think about the power if we unite your powerful body. By the way, Christian, 6'2", 265, ran a 4.45 40. Is that about right?
That's right.
And the power then, but look at what also Christian has. He has a strength of spirit and heart and mind. And when those are aligned together, that's when we can punch through and get to higher levels no one ever thought we could. So you make it with the Chiefs. We have an okay, not so great year that next year. And then Marty Schottenheimer comes. The first time I played for a great coach, Carl Peterson, a really demanding but quality general managers there. The team in 1 year turned around. Tell me what that was like. You now made it. You've shown you can do things. You caught 23 passes that second year, was it?
Second year, yes.
Yeah. And it's clear you have real talent. And Marty Schottenheimer now takes over. The difference between who was running Kannaway initially and now Blake Schrader and Randy Schrader and Stuart Titus and Steve Jones and all the great people, those quality leaders set a tone of excellence. And we had that with Marty. Tell us about that.
Well, when Marty came to Kansas City, within about 2 or 3 weeks that it was in Kansas City that spring of 1989, right? he calls me. I was in California. He called me. My phone rang. I picked it up. He says, Christian, this is Coach Schonheimer. I said, how you doing, Coach? He says, listen, you think you can fly to Kansas City? I need to meet with you. I said, sure. I flew to Kansas City. I went to Marty's office. I sat down. He said, how you doing? I said, I'm fine, Coach. He said, are you in shape? I said, Coach, I'm always in shape. I'm a track and field guy. He says, good, good. He says, listen, I just want to let you know we're going to run the ball. Are you ready? I said, I'm ready, Coach. He says, we're going to run it, and we're going to run it a lot. Are you ready? Would you be ready? I said, Coach, I'm ready. He said, okay, that's all I needed to know. That took 2 minutes. Our meeting took 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then he took me around, introduced me to the other assistant coaches, and then I went home.
Yeah.
2-minute meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was very...
2 minutes, though, when that leader has values that all the other coaches that were Bill Cowher, future Hall of Fame coach, Tony Dungy, future Hall of Fame coach,
yes.
Right? Then you don't have to talk a lot because you do what a lot of people keep only in attitude and in intention, but when you have leaders that set the tone with their actions consistently, they don't have to talk a lot. So Marty took 2 minutes, but you knew exactly what he meant.
Yeah, I knew exactly what he meant, and he put me in the spot, and I knew exactly where his mind was and what he needed me to do. So I got myself ready for the season, and when he gave me the ball, I tried to do it the best I could with the ball. But I'm gonna add something that I usually talk about. One of the things that I told the kid that pointed at me and said, if it wasn't for you, I would have made it to the NFL. I told him, I gave him examples. I said, look at Kobe Bryant. If you watched The Last Dance also, I always use Michael Jordan as an example.
Yeah.
And the other great athletes, Peyton Manning, people that prepare to always better themselves. Don't compete with anybody, but better yourself. Compete with yourself. Always work to improve on what you already done. And that's what I try to do my whole entire life. In anything that I do, it can go in sports, athletes can do that, salespeople can do that without competing with anybody else. Compete with yourself, because if you continuously better yourself, you will get to wherever you want to get to. Because you cannot do it. Yes.
I just have to paint this picture. Your father was not a large man, right?
No, my father was 5'9". It was little. I'm 6'2".
And he had his own, what I would call God-given abilities, but they were different from yours. And so you competing with yourself allowed you to push through what you were capable of to a new level, which wouldn't be the same as your father, even though the DNA was so similar. And I think we get trapped in thinking, I have to compare myself to these people over here, when it really is beautifully stated by you. It is this constant challenge and competition with ourselves. Matthew McConaughey, when he won the Oscar, he said, I'm competing with the person I'm going to be in 7 years. I want that person 7 years from now to be proud of who I am, to be proud of the person that I challenge myself to be. But it's always that competition with ourselves. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. Just like maybe I'm going to go into business. A salesperson that goes into an office to sell something, an item, and then fails. He didn't do the sell. And he comes back to the office and he says, man, that guy was a jerk. He wouldn't even listen to me, such and such. He didn't stop to think, maybe it's the way you presented yourself, And then his mate will go back to that particular guy and gets the deal done. Now, what's the difference between the two guys? Because the guy that you went to sell the item to, he obviously needed the item that you're selling. That's why you had you in his office and listened to you for maybe half hour, spill your way. You see? Now, if you didn't make the sale, it's your fault because you didn't present it well. Now your mate goes back and gets the job done What's the difference? So now I go back to athletics. You compare Kobe Bryant with somebody else playing another team. Why is Kobe Bryant why was he so good at basketball and not the rest of the league? Why was Michael Jordan so good and not the other guy? If you watch Michael Jordan during the practices, he was just pushing his teammates, and many people were upset because he was pushing them. His teammates didn't see where he was, where the level where he was at. His teammates didn't understand his thinking. And he already understood that if you work extremely hard, everything will come natural to you during the games, which he did for him, but not to the other guys, who were just happy to be in the NBA. And I saw that when I was in the NFL, guys who were just happy to be in the NFL. I was talking to Jonathan Hayes, another one of our teammates, a tight end when I played. I went and visited him in St. Louis when he was coaching his team over there in the XFL. And he asked me, he says, "Christian, can you talk to my team?" And I spoke to him. I said, "Listen, the success that you're going to have in life depends on you. You cannot, put yourself in another person's position. You cannot do that because you're not. The guy that you want to put yourself in their position probably works extremely harder than you, or maybe works, not as hard as you work. So you can only be yourself.
Yeah.
You can only be yourself, but always
right.
Try to achieve your goal by bettering yourself."
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What about the guys today? And we saw a lot of those with physically more talent that never make it. We had a guy, Doc Lucky, nice guy, number 2 draft pick for us back in, I think, 83. 310 pounds, could bench press 600 pounds, ran about a 4.9 40, ridiculous at 310 pounds. Never played it down.
Yeah.
For those people that say, well, yeah, I compete with myself, but my dad wasn't there for me. My mom wasn't encouraging. I didn't get enough food when I grew up. I had, a lousy family. I had no coach. I didn't have a school. That's an excuse.
That's an excuse. That's finger pointing. Everything that you just said, all the excuses you just gave right now for the person, he didn't talk about himself or the game. He was talking about the things that he missed. What about the things he has? Yeah. He has himself. He has the ability. God has blessed him with the body and the strength and everything that he can use to achieve the things that he needed to achieve. But it's not using him. He's just pointing fingers at the things that he didn't have. Yeah. If you don't have it, why worry about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why worry about it? Pay attention to the things that you have. Like Marty used to say, do not worry about the things you have no control over.
Yeah.
Worry about the things that you have control of.
I like to add just a little thing to it too, which is, once again, when we work with kids, like you've helped me with my Native Vision program way back at the very beginning, and I really appreciate you for it. And here it is 24 years later, all those kids that were 16 are now 40 and have 2 and 3 and 4 kids. And hopefully, even if it was just one of them, we help them. But what I try to share is, you're not Christian Okoye, you're not Nick Lowery, you're you. And God's given you unique gifts, and the journey and the classroom is an internal classroom of connecting and being clear about what your gifts are, and then using them and perfecting them. That's it. Because if you do that, then any cultural stigma, it's not part of my tribe, it's not part of my, in Native America, or it's this or that. No, it's you. God made you unique. Connect to that, because that's where your power is. There's a reason why you're unique, and just make the most of that uniqueness, and beautiful things will happen. But we are in a culture today where people want to point elsewhere, because this thing called a phone gives us such instant gratification in short bursts, but they don't have to do with work ethic. They don't have to do with being able to focus when Christian Okoye is bruised and tired and has a broken or sprained ankle. That has nothing to do. These skill sets to look up on Google and to read on the internet and to be stimulated by that have nothing to do with the inner stimulation to push us the way of Kobe Bryant, the way of Michael Jordan, and the way of Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare, learned to push themselves from within.
That's right. That's right. You know, all those people you just mentioned, including myself and you, and some of the people that I know, one thing is very, very constant: hard work. You have to work extremely hard in order to achieve the things that you want to achieve, your goals. If you don't work hard, it's all on you. You can't leave it there. If you want to if you want to succeed in this kind of way business, then it's going to be left to you to figure out the ways to do it. If you can't figure out the way to do it, then ask questions. Pick up the phone and call somebody and seek advice. And once you get that advice, you make your plan and go for it. But if you think you cannot achieve the goals that you set up for yourself, then maybe something else you can step into. So, but I've always said that you have to work extremely hard at everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Here's is calm, you know, bumps on the road calm, but you have to just step over them or deal with it, go around them.
I've heard how strongly you had imbued in you these disciplines in terms of running and track and stretching and never pulling a muscle. I think that's also exemplary of the process, that when you work hard, it eventually, if you stick with it, you see improvement. You don't go from thinking you're improving to knowing you're a better person than when you started. And that fills you up. And all I know is I began to like pushing myself. I got to the point where nothing like you, but I could, do lunges with 240 pounds. I did incline sled squats, sets of 15 with 800 pounds. I ran with those pants. You might remember that, with the weights in them. I love that, because when I was doing that, my mind and my soul were saying, I am going to be so much more confident in the game because I love the work. So that doesn't happen automatically, but with the commitment to focus yourself, as you did, Christian, and as I learned to do, I began to go from thinking to knowing it was going to make me better.
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. For those people who don't understand exactly the things that we're talking about right now, I realized in the early age of my career that if I'm not on the field, I'm not playing. If I'm not on the field, I'm probably not going to be able to come back the following year. So I have to be on the field. I have to do everything that I could to make sure that I was healthy. So I made sure that I stretched. I made sure that I was in shape every single time I showed up at training camps. You see what I'm saying? So yeah. I prepared myself to be in great shape, because if you're not in shape, you might get injured in practice.
Yeah.
So you have to be in shape in order to, simulate the things that the coaches wanted to see. If you're not in shape, you're not able to do that effectively. So I made a decision within myself to make sure the things that I had to do to show up every single time and be healthy is that I need to be able to take care of my body. And the way to do it is make sure that I work out, stay in shape, and stretch every single time so I don't pull muscle. If I pull muscle, I'm not on the field.
Yeah. Marty Schottenheimer, what I loved about him was when he brought me into the office, he said, Nick, you're smart, but you might be too smart. He said, I don't know about kickers. If you make your kicks, you'll be here. If you don't, you don't. And I love that, because it just said to me, work your butt off and perform. Make it so that Marty knows he can count on you. One of the great statistics that I'm very proud of is I was 38 for 40 in the fourth quarter, because Marty would always make it close. So that really helped me. But getting back to Christian Okoye, you made it not only as our dominant rusher, you led the entire National Football League in rushing in 1989, and then along with Barry Word, you gave us, I think, the #1 rushing attack in the NFL when we broke into the playoffs in 1990. And I was lucky to kick a lot of field goals because you and Barry and Steve DeBerg and that great offensive line, we had a great offense. We had confidence. And it really did turn around in about 1 year. But yeah, let's talk about that. What did it mean to you to suddenly go from a guy that had never played football till your junior year when you're, 21 years old or something, to leading the NFL in scoring. That's just about as high an accolade as you could ever have.
Well, again,
sorry.
Well, again, as you remember, I was still young in the game. I didn't know what I was doing, so I was blessed with a bunch of people around me that helped me out, only because I was dedicated. I wanted to do it. And if you don't want to do it, then those people couldn't have helped. So I wanted to do it, and I sought help from everybody, my teammates, my coaches, and everybody helped me out. So it's one of those things when you dedicate yourself and when you want to succeed, you use everything around you that you can use to succeed. And that includes seeking help, which I did. And that includes working extremely hard, which I did. And I was so thankful for that. And I thank God in such a way that I look back right now and I couldn't believe I did everything that you just, explained to me right now. But I was blessed. I was blessed.
All right, that's a very humble answer. But a lot of people that, Christian, that do achieve that high level of success, they let it. We call the expression in America and elsewhere, they let it go to their head. I led the NFL in rushing, therefore, and they forget the hard work. It seems like you never allow yourself to say that, hey, I was blessed, but I got to keep doing the things that got me here. What advice would you give to people listening that achieve greatness and then suddenly, like we've had with COVID and the world economy, suddenly that's taken away and you have to recalibrate and rededicate again? Even though you've been the highest level, suddenly it's taken away from you. What would you say to them?
Well, the same way that you had attained success before, you just go back to the drawing board. And God never leaves us. He has every plan in place for us to do the things that we want to do. So you go back and you start working again, put everything together, and you will come back because you've done it before. You've done it before, so you can do it again. That's what I have to say about that. But in anything that we do in life, working extremely hard towards the goal that we set is the only way. And on the way to that goal, there's always going to be some disappointments in every way, and be ready for it. And sometimes when we get disappointed, we get boggled down by them. But no, Marty used to say, one play at a time. When one play doesn't go well,
one play at a time.
One play at a time. When one play doesn't go well, just look forward to the next one. Correct it in the next one. And that's how you have to treat life in everything that you do.
Don't keep repeating the same mistakes. Learn from it, then wash it from your head and move on. So you become one of the famous or infamous Nigerian nightmare, and suddenly you're out of the game. And we've only got a few minutes left. But I want to talk about that, because what I've noticed in my own life is that as long as I keep thinking about that work ethic and about having a purpose and about serving something else, it puts me in a great place. And you've done several things in your life. Obviously, the people in Kansas City want to make sure you're on the field because you represent, I think, the humility and the champion that we in Kansas City love. And I think it's a beautiful thing to watch. But talk about the California Sports Hall of Fame, and literally, 30, 40, 50 of the greatest athletes in the history of the world, from Joe Montana and Marcus Allen and Bill Walton, and just on and on, great coaches, Bill Walsh, etc., Dick Vermeil. Tell us about the California Sports Hall of Fame and what it's meant to you and how it's helped you make that transition from the field to a life that, helps you interact with great champions and share those champions with other people that can be inspired as well.
Well, when I left Kansas City Chiefs, I knew that I wasn't done. A lot of times when people will leave their work, they face something else privately. But I wanted to give back because a lot of people helped me out. Coming from Nigeria, Coach Okoye, my dad, and then at Azusa Pacific, Jim Milhorn, the football coach, Terry Franson, the track coach. And then coming to Kansas City, all my teammates. And I'm talking about Frank Gans, talking about Billy Matthews. You remember Billy Matthews, my position coach? He was like a dad to me in Kansas City. All my teammates, Jim Saxon, Barry Ward, all those guys, Deron Cherry, all you guys were good to me, knowing that I didn't play football as a kid. I was still learning when I was there. Now, when I retired, I wanted to give back. Formed my foundation, which works with the inner city kids, trying to bring them out from their neighborhoods and introducing them to new things and having people come and speak to them so they can develop new ideas and goals to set for themselves. You know, because a lot of times when these kids stay in their neighborhoods, they don't know anything outside their neighborhoods. You see, when you bring them out, they get to see the world, and it allows them to set goals and want to be something else other than the big guy in the neighborhood driving a Cadillac with the big wheels and all that stuff, you know? So I have that foundation. Now I've moved that to Nigeria, working with kids in Nigeria, doing the same thing. In 2006, after being inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame in 2003, I started researching, working on California Sports Hall of Fame. And the first person I spoke to was Bill Walsh, former San Francisco head coach. I spoke to him and I asked him, I said, Coach, is there a California Sports Hall of Fame? He says, no, I haven't heard of it, if there's one. And I asked him, I said, if I start one, would you support? He said, yeah, just give me a call. I said, okay. So I started calling all the big names in California. Reggie Jackson, I called him. John Wooden, I called him. Tommy Lasorda, I already know him, and I called him. He threw in his support also. All these guys threw in their support. And I started the California Sports Hall of Fame in 2006. 2007 was the first induction ceremony. And so we've been doing it ever since.
And just throw out some of the names, like that initial class. You had Tommy Lasorda. Tell us some of the other people that are part of it.
Tommy Lasorda, Bill Walsh, Eric Dickerson, Marcus Allen, Reggie Jackson, John Wooden. I got all the big names in California, man. Yeah, all
Jackie Joyner Kersey.
Yes, Jackie Joyner Kersey was there too. So we had a bunch of people, and they showed up. They showed up and supported. And every year that we do this, we invite them back. Some of them who can make it, and some of them who can say next year. So we've been having fun doing this. And the reason why we do it is because when we finish building our museum, I want kids to go in there and see these guys and learn about their stories, their lives, how they grew up, how hard they worked, because we're all different. We came from different backgrounds. Yep. So when kids come in and see all these names, they must find somebody who is similar to them, who grew up like them. You see what I'm saying? And they can say, hey, I can do that. This guy can do this. I can do it too. You see,
hey,
so
Christian,
that's
show everybody the logo on your shirt there. It's a little bit below the camera if you can stand up. There it is.
Yeah.
Everybody, those of you that want to be part of supporting the California Sports Hall of Fame, we're going to put the website on there. And if you want to contribute to, or if you want to sponsor some kids, maybe a table where you have a couple coaches and like 6, 7 kids to come. I mean, just 2 years ago, I was there and Bill Walton's there, and poor guy's back is so bad that he had his own special chair, so he didn't have to sit down, but you get to know these people, and the cocktail party before, it's so wonderful because we're all human. And that's the other side. Is we're all human, and the people that have stayed champions, to me, they're the same person you met the first day from 50 years later. Dick Vermeil's always been that way to me. Tony Dungy's always been that same to me. Christian Okoye has always been that same. And I think that's because those are our core values. They resonate with who we are and how we've learned to navigate life. So, Christian, if you want to give it any advice, if there's a famous quote, whether it's from the Bible or elsewhere, what would be the quote that you would love to use, and a person that you would ask maybe a young person or one of the people watching now to emulate to get them through the current challenges of their lives?
Well, one thing I have to say is that, like I said during our talk, that hard work trumps everything. Hard work trumps everything. And even during that hard work, working towards your goal, again, if you encounter any disappointments, it happens. Disappointments happens all the time. So you have to expect it. First of all, you have to expect it. So when it comes, you know that it's coming. And you have a way to walk around it, because it doesn't last long. Tomorrow is another day. Yeah. Like Marty used to say, just keep on rowing, and you will get there. So that's nothing that is, I told my kids this, the worst thing that can happen to a human being is death. As long as you're alive, you have a chance to accomplish anything that you want to accomplish.
Last question, and this is as a father. We just had Father's Day. You have 3 children, but I've known Tiana, and she is an incredible woman. She's always had that knowledge that she wanted to be a singer, dancer, performer, actress, and just brag on her for a little bit, because she embodies so much of you in her own unique way. So tell us about your daughter and her acting career, and now she's making it on television for people to watch. And when you watch her, think about the Christian Okoye that lives through her.
Well, I told my daughter this when she was a lot younger. I told her, I said, Tiana, growing up, you should never expect anybody to give you anything for nothing. So expect yourself to work for the things that you get. Always work for the things that you get. Expect to take care of yourself first, because if you can't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of anybody else. You see? So she's had that in mind, and she's a very, very hard worker. And she's gone to Japan and lived in Japan for a year, working for Disney.
Right? Yeah.
Disney, yes. And of course, she's worked at Disney California here, being Elsa, the princess, at Disney California for 3 years.
Let me ask you a question, Christian. Was she the first, we call it African-American, but first African-American princess for Disney?
Elsa. Yeah.
She's setting history. Yeah. She's breaking through, some call it the glass ceiling, but she, Christian Okoye's daughter, in her own way, has broken records herself. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes. So she was. And now she went to New York and was in New York for 18 months working on Cher, the show Cher on Broadway. And right before COVID started, she came home, thank God. So she came to Hollywood. She lives in Hollywood right now. And she got into Seth Meyers' new show, which is not filming now because of COVID. Right. And hopefully, after this fall, they will start filming. So she's a hard worker. She's a singer. She sings national anthem at the event all the time. And Tommy Lasorda saw her and said, you must have her at the Dodger Stadium. Yeah. She is awesome. And I brought her. She sang national anthem at the Dodger Stadium. Took it up,
Well, thank you, Christian. We love you. We love you for the person you are off the field just as much as the inspiration on the field. And by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't say both of us are excited to watch our Kansas City Chiefs win another Super Bowl. We hope this year. Right. And if it is to be done, it will because of the things Christian talked about: hard work, humility, loving and caring about your teammates, so that you all surround yourselves with people that bring out your best. And I just like to finish with this thought, because it just says it to me, and it's about you too. It's not the brightness of the spotlight on us, it's the intensity of the light within us that's the ultimate measure of a human being. And Christian Okoye, thank you for your light. I appreciate and treasure my friendship with you, and I appreciate what you've been able to share for the people out there today. God bless you.
Well said, man. Thank you. God bless you too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.